Hi, my name is Keith Cooper from Northlight Images, and in this short video I'm going to look at some aspects of using black and white test image. Now I've produced a video describing the test image, what it used, but this is a short video based on some questions I've been asked about people, how they use the image. The image is available for free download from the Northlight Images website. There are several versions of it. There's a version that has a 21-step wedge on it for measurements, and there's one with a 51-step measurement. The basic image is the same, but depending on what you're using the image for, there are different versions of this image. Therefore, reading it, if you've got a spectrophotometer, or even you can use a scanner for testing it. The version I use most, and there are probably 40-50 prints here in this pile, is this particular version on A4, which has a 51-step wedge on the top of it, and this is designed for feeding into an automated scanner that I have. Just makes testing these things so much easier. It takes me about 2 minutes to do a test to see how the black and white performs on a particular paper. So these are a combination of different papers and different printers I've tested over the last year. So there are all kinds of papers. There is a matte art paper, there are glossy papers, there are all kinds of papers. But fundamentally, if you're using this for measurements, you use the version of the measurements, the grayscale that suits how you want to measure the devices. There are loads of different ways of doing this, and there are articles that go into this in depth about how you do the measurements, how you get the results from it. But in general, I've had people ask, how do I know the picture is right? Well, first of all, if your screen is a good one, there's a BenQ 2700, this is hardware calibrated and profiled. So I'm fairly confident in the grayscale performance of this. I can look at the image and I can see various features of it. I can see shadow detail, things like that. That's important. The key thing I'm generally looking for when I'm doing printing, I'm looking for smoothness in the highlights. So I'm looking for a smooth gradation on this bit here, where it says black and white test print. I want a nice smooth gradation from white here to solid black here. Now, first up, a lot of printers, particularly cheaper printers, are not going to be perfect in this. You do not have to be able to do a perfect print of this image to be able to do black and white. It just shows you potential problem areas. So, for example, in this one here, if you see bands in it, and this is particular where you're using cheaper printers, dye-based printers that have a limited range of colours in them, you may see some slight banding. Now I would always suggest trying black and white, not to use profiles, but to print using the black and white print mode of the driver if it's available. So that's ABW for Epson, and black and white print mode for Canon. Works very well. But anyway, you'll print that you may see slight banding. The other thing is, the light I've got here, the sun's gone in temporarily, so I've got lighting here, LED halogen bulb replacement bulbs. I've got a bit of daylight coming from here. It's a mix of lighting. Particularly with dye-based printers, take your print outside, see what it looks like in sunlight, see what it looks like under, say, tungsten lighting, if you've still got some, under different types of LED lighting. You may find that some types of lighting, your print looks much better. Now, if it looks much better under the lighting you have in your house, that's good news, because it means you're unlikely to view the print outside. If it looks much better outdoors, then maybe some adjustments required. Now, you can tweak curves, you can use things with Affinity Photo or in Photoshop. I probably do it in Lightroom, I just don't particularly like Lightroom. But you can do slight curve adjustments to try and even out kinks. But what I would say after years of trying to fix things is that adjustments to work need to be quite subtle adjustments. If you find you're having to make sizable adjustments for curves for printing, then that's a hint that either the paper, the ink or the printer are just not suited to one another. So other things to look for in terms of shadow detail, you should be able to see detail. It's dark in these trees and in this spit of land in the picture there. Likewise here on the ruins here, there is some black text. Now that black text is pure black. Behind it there are lots of tones near black, so you should be able to read the text there. It just says copyright 2005 Keith Cooper. Now my quick test for when I'm testing black and white is, can I read my surname clearly there? If I can read it clearly, really clearly, then that suggests that there's something a bit wrong with the way shadows are being handled. If I can't read the last three letters, that's a hint that shadows are being compressed. Now, once again, something you might adjust with a curve, but something to be wary of. You use a test print like this to find out what the performance of the paper is going to be like. So I can take one here and I can see this is on a glossy paper. And superficially it looks okay. I can see a slight colour tint in it. And certainly if I look at the bullseye pattern here and here, I can see a very slight banding. Well, yeah, that's not ideal. And if I look on this one, I can see that this one here was printed on the Canon Pro 200 using Pro Platinum paper, using an ICC profile that I'd made. Now, if you do much testing, I'll just write on the back what these things are. So I've written what it was from my testing here. And immediately that explains why this one stood out to me as having a slight tint, not looking very good. It's using an ICC profile to print black and white. And certainly on this printer, and quite a lot of others I've tested, that's not a good way of producing black and white. You could get good black and white off that printer, the Canon Pro 200. I've got some good black and white prints, but I've used the black and white print mode. Similarly, another one leaps out at me here. This one has in this one a distinct greenish tinge. Now I'm not sure whether this will show up on the video or not, but looking at this I can see some banding in the bullseye pattern. It's not smooth, the gradient. If I look at the gradient here, I can see it's slightly uneven, and yeah, it doesn't look good. I don't want my prints to have this slight greenish colour. And once again, and I have picked these purely because they jumped out at me from having colour. This is the Canon Pro 200 using heavy art, fine art paper, using the Canon printer profile, an ICC profile. So those two from this big pile here that leapt out at me looking slightly wrong were both printed using a profile. Now, I've printed this image, it must be thousands of times now. I use it for testing papers, for testing printers. I've got these big versions that I used for when I was testing poster board printing. This was probably, I believe, this was on the Epson P700 or P900. So printing on poster board there. That's a pigment ink printer and these look fine. They are a matte poster board, they work very well. All of these hundreds of other ones that I've printed tell me about one. Have a look at the detailed article about the print image, if you like, about using it. But remember, you can still get good prints without getting a perfect print here. There may be problems that show up. So for example, if I've got a slight one, and this one here was printed on a P700 and looks good, it's on a luster finish paper, no obvious problems here. That suggests that it's going to work okay. You may not, if you see a problem here, it may not show in your pictures. But if it does show in your pictures, at least you'll know where it comes from, rather than just thinking there's something wrong with the picture. Anyway, that's just a quick look at using this black and white test image. Please do feel free to ask questions of the video. Follow the links through You can download the various versions, and as I said, there are articles that go into much greater detail as to why the various features are there on the printer, why you might use them and how you can use them. So hope this has been of some help. Thank you very much.